Like equations to the mathematician, medicine to the doctor, or paint to the painter, fabric allows the fashion designer to turn their design sketches into three-dimensional garments. Do you know what a textile is? Chances are pretty good that you have touched one today, used one, sat on one, or saw one. Find out what a textile is, how it is made, and the important role fabric plays in the realization of the designer's vision. Hello to all my lovely designers. Who knows the name of this song? Because I do not want you guys to leave the lesson, I will say the lyrics instead of singing them. We are living in a material world and I am a material girl. Of course, it is Material Girls by Madonna. What a classic! I hope you are ready for lesson 6. We are going to explore all things material, but from a fashion designer's perspective. Before we get stuck in, it is always a good idea to take a second to reflect on your journey thus far. Take a step back and think. Why did you register for the fashion design course? What drives you? Is it the love for fashion and clothing, or designing, or do you want to learn how to make your own clothes? Is it to enhance your career or for personal development? What can we do to ensure you continue the path of achieving your goals? Have you considered the next steps in your fashion design journey? Don't forget that our vision here at Show Academy is to do everything possible to make gaining new skills accessible and affordable worldwide. You can be so proud of yourself. You have already gained so much, so let's keep the momentum going. Every lesson builds on the concepts of the previous one, and the power lies within you to take it even further. Let's look at how far you've come in just 5 lessons. While we have not covered pattern making and garment construction just yet, celebrate all the other skills like fashion theory, drawing and illustration, and design development you already have under your belt. So, I hope you feel that not only do you have a goal, but that you have a goal worth achieving. On that note, let's look at our lesson objectives for today. Today we are going to look at the definition of a textile and how a textile is created. We are also going to look at the textile supply chain. Then we are going to discuss natural and synthetic textiles and perform an exciting test that will help you determine what kind of fiber it has been made of. Get ready for a fun lesson. I want to welcome all of you to lesson 6 of fashion design titled Material Things. When you woke up this morning, you likely threw off the bed covers. Then you went into the bathroom and stepped on a rug or dried your hands on a towel. After leaving the bathroom, you probably got dressed. Those covers, rugs, towels, and clothes are all examples of textiles. Fashion is unthinkable without fabrics. It is the starting point of all fashion creations. So, what is a textile? A textile or fabric is a two-dimensional, flexible surface that is transformed into a three-dimensional form by the designer. Textiles refer to the materials that are made from fibers and filaments, which are either natural, manufactured, or a combination of both. All fabrics can thus be characterized as either natural or synthetic. Both types have their advantages and disadvantages, and each is valued for different reasons. Let's break down a textile to see what it is made out of. A fiber is considered the basic building blocks of a textile. Fibers are tiny hair-like strands that are combined to create yarn and fabric. There are two different types of fiber, staple and filament. A staple fiber is a short strand. Length of staple fibers vary, so high-quality staple fibers are longer and finer, and low-quality staple fibers are shorter and coarser. Staple fibers can either be natural or synthetic. A filament fiber is a continuous strand. Silkworms and spiders produce smooth, continuous fibers from which they make their cocoons and webs. Synthetic fibers imitate this natural process of extruding fibers from a liquid. Synthetic filament fibers are produced when a chemical fiber compound is passed through a spinneret to form these fibers. What is a yarn? A yarn is a continuous strand produced from the various staple and filament fibers. It is important for yarns to be strong, to be interlaced or looped together to create a two-dimensional and flexible piece of fabric. Yarns are created when staple fibers are twisted together in a process called spinning to create a continuous strand. Filament fibers follow the same process, but due to it already being a continuous fiber, requires less twisting. The amount of yarn twist will determine the strength of the yarn, while the direction of the twist will influence the texture. There are three basic yarns, which are: spun yarn use staple fibers that are twisted together. Short staple fibers will produce low-quality, dull and coarse yarn. Long staple fibers will produce high-quality, lustrous and smooth yarn. Monofilament yarn uses only one filament fiber as a yarn. An example of this is spandex or metallic fiber. Multifilament yarn only uses filament fibers. There are two types of multifilament yarns: textured filament yarns like tweed or slubbed yarn, and the other type of multifilament yarn is a smooth filament yarns that create lustrous and shiny yarns. The textile supply chain. The following slides will summarize how the textile industry functions and is intended to describe how fabric is produced and sold. First, we have raw materials. This can either be natural or manufactured fibers. For natural fibers, farmers transport these fibers to mills to transform the raw natural material or fibers into yarns. For synthetic fibers, the raw materials, which are either oil or plant-based, are turned into fibers at chemical fiber mills. These fibers are then transported to mills to transform the fibers into yarn. Then we are off to the yarn mills. There are different types of yarn mills that create many different types of yarn. These yarns are often dyed before it is made into a piece of fabric. The next step is the textile mills. Textile mills produce knitted or woven fabric from the yarns, called greige fabric. Greige fabric is unfinished fabric, unable to be used for clothing. At the finishing mill, the greige fabric is transformed into a fabric that designers recognize and use. Finishing fabric usually involves three important steps: scoring and bleaching. This is where the color is removed and the fabric is cleaned. So, in other words, preparing the textile for its makeover. Color. Color or prints are added to the fabric to make it beautiful. Color and fashion trends are looked at for inspiration to create something that designers will buy and that consumers want to wear. And then finish. Finishes that are added to a fabric can either be for looks or for function. Examples of finishes are embossing, pleating, and embroidery. It takes about 6 months to turn the fiber into a final piece of fabric. When it comes to creating new fabric, there are different types of molds to consider. Large converter molds. These molds buy grease fabric from Textile Moles and convert it into interesting and creative fabrics for the designer to use. Large vertical molds. These molds do it all. They create the chemical material, produce the fiber and yarn that gets transformed into the grease fabric, which they finish at the same mold. And then we have small molds. These molds are often good at developing fabrics and create interesting artisanal fabrics on a small scale for independent designers. The next step involves the designer sourcing for the fabric to be used to transform designs into actual garments. There are several ways to source fabric. Textile trade shows. Trade shows are international events where fabric and finishing molds showcase their latest fabric creations. Sales agencies. Trading companies represent many molds and hire sales agents to sell the mold's fabric to the designer. Samples. Designers make use of samples from molds or fabric stores to determine fabric selection for design. Mold waste, factory waste, and discarded garments are usually shipped to landfills. This should be avoided at all costs. New technology is now available to recycle textile products back into raw materials, so the fiber and the yarn to be made into new fabric. Regardless of fiber content, all textiles and clothing will eventually end up in a landfill. In 2011, about 5% of all solid waste was textile related. In 2014, over 16 billion tons of textile waste was generated. To paint you a picture, 16 billion tons are about 8 million blue whales. Can you even imagine the amount of waste? It is truly shocking. In 2018, research suggests that 35% of all materials in the supply chain end up as waste. It is your responsibility as a designer to select fabrics that can be reused and recycled after production and after consumer discarded the garment. Now, let's take a look at textile classifications. What you see on your screen now is what we call a fiber classifications table. As you can see, fibers can either be natural or man-made. Both of these raw materials are spun into yarn that are transformed into fabrics. When it comes to natural fabrics, there are two subcategories of natural fibers. Protein, also sometimes referred to as animal-based fibers, and vegetable, often referred to as plant-based fibers. Protein fibers can either be derived from the hair of the animal or the secretion. Some examples are wool and silk. Vegetable fibers can come from different sections of the plant, like the bast, seed, or reed. Some examples are linen, cotton, and bamboo. Synthetic fibers are made from manufactured materials, usually formed through chemical processes. Synthetic fibers were created over 100 years ago and drastically changed the way we produce textiles. it dramatically increased fiber supply for the mass production of clothing, as it was a cheaper and easier alternative to natural fibers. Man-made fibers have two subcategories underneath it. One is natural polymers, and the other one is synthetic. Synthetic fibers are 100% manufactured from start to finish. You will recognize some examples, like polyester and spandex. A natural polymer is an interesting fiber. It is considered semi-synthetic. A natural polymer is created from a natural fiber, so it has natural DNA, but put through chemical processes to enhance the characteristic of the fiber. So in a way, a synthetic fiber is born from a natural one. Like everything in life, each fiber has its positive and negative characteristics. It is important to know these to make an informed decision when you are sourcing your fabric for your design. Natural fibers are popular for many reasons, so let's take a look at some of its advantages. Clothes made with natural textiles tend to be more comfortable. Due to its structure, most plant and animal-based fibers are very strong, making it a durable piece of fabric. Natural fibers generally have a smaller environmental impact than synthetic fibers because it uses less chemicals during the production process compared to synthetic fibers. It is important to note that some natural fibers are less environmentally friendly than others due to water consumption and use of pesticides. Some disadvantages of natural fibers are that it is quite pricey. Natural fibers are generally more expensive than synthetic fibers because it needs to grow and it can't be easily manufactured. Natural fibers also have a tendency to shrink. Have you ever bought something and after you've washed it, it was 2 sizes too small for you? Don't worry, it was probably not that donut you had, but the garment was most likely made out of a natural textile. Now for the advantages of synthetic fibers. Synthetic fibers are considered the cheaper alternative. Synthetic fibers are also more durable than natural ones and offer consumer-friendly functions such as stretching. Unlike natural fibers, synthetic ones retain their original shape, so you won't get a lot of shrinking. Synthetic fabrics also tend to be more color-fast and more water and stain resistant. Color-fast means that color of the fabric will not fade or be washed out. A big disadvantage of synthetic fibers is that it does not absorb moisture well, which means it traps heat in our bodies, making it a terrible choice for summer. Synthetic fibers may also feel rough, making it uncomfortable to wear. Let's look at some textile examples. Silk is a natural fiber produced by insects as a material for their homes, like nests or cocoons. The most common type of animal-based fiber is silk from the silkworm. This fabric has a beautiful smooth texture, is very strong and hypoallergenic. Hypoallergenic means to be less likely to cause an allergic reaction in people who use the product. Wool is a textile from hair of sheep, goats, or other animals. Wool is very warm, absorbent, and durable. Leather is the skin of an animal and is a great example of a non-woven textile. Nowadays, artists are experimenting with faux or fake leather, made out of all kinds of interesting raw materials like pineapple and plant leaves. Cotton is made from plant-based fibers, more specifically the seed, and is one of the most popular types of textiles because of its comfort and durability. Types of cotton include canvas, denim, and organic cotton. Organic cotton has been created as an eco-friendly alternative to traditional cotton. This means the producers of organic cotton are trying to eliminate the environmental issues that come with growing cotton, like using less water and pesticides during growing and manufacturing processes. Linen is considered the most ancient of all fabrics. It is strong and lightweight, made from the flax plant. Linen is naturally hypoallergenic, resists sunlight, and is very breathable, perfect for those hot summer days. Hemp is becoming more popular again. It is one of the strongest and most durable natural textiles and is also one of the most environmentally friendly because it produces more fiber than cotton or linen in a smaller space and needs very little water to grow. It is also naturally pest resistant, so no need for harmful pesticides. Rayon is an example of a natural polymer, which means it is semi-synthetic. It is one of the most versatile fabrics due to its ability to imitate other fabrics. It is the shapeshifter of the group. Polyester is a synthetic fiber created from petroleum and coal, characterized by its durable nature. Unfortunately, polyester is not a breathable fabric and does not absorb liquids well. Spandex, also known as elastine or lycra, is a blend of several fibers to add stretch and is thus characterized by its extreme elasticity. Here is a little fun fact for you about spandex. Spandex is an anagram for the word expands. So, if you rearrange the word expands, you will be able to spell spandex. I thought this was such a cute little fact. It is a misconception that natural fabrics do not damage the environment, while synthetic textiles do all the damage. This is not true. Some natural textiles and synthetic textiles have very similar environmental impacts due to having similar manufacturing styles with chemicals and additives. It is important to research and acknowledge the environmental impact of textiles, especially if you want to be a designer who prioritizes sustainability. If you thought this lesson was fun so far, let me get you excited about the next lesson, which will be a very practical one. You will be introduced to pattern making and the different equipment used to create patterns. You will also put pencil to paper and create some blocks to be sewn in the last lesson of Module 1. Please make sure that you have a piece of paper, pencil, eraser, and ruler ready for the next lesson. Now we come to the good stuff. This is the only time where playing with fire is not only allowed, but encouraged. First, you will need a few things to perform a burn test. A piece of fabric, often referred to as a swatch, a flame-proof container, a source of a small flame, water to extinguish the flame, and long tweezers to hold the swatch. I bet you didn't think you'd see a safety precautions slide in a fashion design course, but here we are. Be careful when performing a burn test. Do these tests in a well-ventilated area and only on fire-resistant surfaces. Finding out the fiber content of your textile swatch will be a whole lot less fun if you have burned your house down. So I am going to say this again. Please be careful. So, what is a burn test? A burn test is performed by setting a small piece of fabric on fire to help you identify what a fabric is made of by monitoring the flame as it burns and inspecting the ashes after the flame is gone. The test is very helpful in determining whether a fabric is made from natural or synthetic fibers. Many fibers have similar reactions, and that can cause quite a bit of confusion, but it can at least help you a little bit with the natural and synthetic classification of textile fibers. Here you can see the steps you need to follow to conduct a burn test. Step 1. Cut a small piece of fabric that you want to test. A 1.5 by 1.5 inch square will do. Hold the fabric with tweezers and not your fingers, please. They are too valuable. Step 2. Ignite one corner of fabric and place it into a flame-proof container. Step 3. Pay attention to the flame and the odor or smell of the smoke. And step 4. Examine the ashes after it has been cooled. What to look out for when looking at the flame? As you move the flame close to the swatch, does it ignite or does it curl away from the heat? Vegetable fibers usually ignite as the flame draws near. Protein fibers usually curl away from the flame. Synthetic fibers curl away from the heat and tend to melt. Also analyze how the fabric burns. Vegetable fibers burn quickly and have an afterglow. Protein fibers burn slowly and will not stay lit after flame is removed. Synthetic fibers burn quickly and continue to burn after flame is removed. Now, let's look at the smoke. Vegetable fibers have a white or light colored smoke. Protein fibers have very little smoke, and synthetic fibers have dark smoke. What it smells like can tell you a lot about a fiber. Vegetable fibers smell like burning paper. Protein fibers smell like burning hair, and synthetic fibers smell like burning plastic or the chemical odor. The last step of this investigation is looking at the ashes. Vegetable fiber ashes are soft and fine and turn to dust when touched. Protein fiber remnants crush between your fingers when touched, and synthetic fibers have hard lumps or melted beads, so no ash. I've performed a burn test on 3 different swatches: natural polymer, and synthetic, to kind of give you an idea of what it should look like. This is the example of the natural textile. Luckily, denim is very recognizable, so I already knew its fiber content was natural. When I performed the test, these were the things that I have noticed. First, the flame was big, and the fabric burned quickly. It also had white smoke and an afterglow. It definitely smelled like burning paper, and as you can see, there is some soft ash. This is the example of the natural polymer textile. This is a Rayon Swatch. When I performed the test, these were the things I've noticed. First, there was a flame. Not a big one, but this told me that it had natural DNA. The smell was a mixture between burning paper and plastic, and it had very little ash. This is strange because a natural fiber will create ash and a synthetic fiber will melt, so it kind of makes sense that this is a semi-synthetic fiber. This is an example of this synthetic textile. this is a spandex swatch. When I performed the test, these were the things I've noticed. First, there was no flame. The fabric curled away from the flame. It did, however, have a very potent chemical odor. As you can see, there is no ash, but you can see a melted edge. This is definitely a synthetic fiber after analyzing the burn test. Like I said before, these results will never be 100% accurate because every fiber is different and it also relies on your textile knowledge. It can, however, guide you into the right direction and help you determine whether the fabric is natural or synthetic. Fashion design is about the manipulation of raw materials, such as textiles, to create clothing. Fabric is thus an important part of the design process. It is key for the designer to have the appropriate textile knowledge, as it will help the designer achieve their desired results, create masterpieces, and stand out from the rest. Your challenge today is an exciting one. I want you to perform a burn test and analyze the results to determine the fiber content. I also want you to share your photo of your burnt swatch and comment your results. Please share this on your favorite social media platform and our Shaw Academy Fashion Facebook page using the hashtag #ShawFashionTest. Everyone will have a different textile swatch, so by sharing, we can learn a lot from each other. I look forward to seeing all of your tests. Have fun and please be safe. Before you rush off to do this exciting challenge, please take a few minutes and complete the weekly assignment. This will prepare you for your final module assignment, which will count for marks and is around the corner. And that is it for today. You have finished lesson 6. Thank you so much for joining me for this lesson. Learning about textiles brings me so much joy, and I really hope you've learned something new and interesting. I look forward to having all of you back here for lesson 7 for the love of patterns. Until then, as always, stay fashionable.